Picture this: a backyard garden bed somewhere in suburban America. The tomatoes are stunted, the peppers are yellowing, and when a shovel breaks the surface, the soil underneath is not dark and crumbly. It is gray, dusty, lifeless. Water pools on top instead of soaking in. And the strangest part, this bed has been fed synthetic fertilizer religiously for 5 straight years. So here is the question nobody in the garden aisle wants asked. How does soil that gets fed constantly end up so nutritionally bankrupt that plants can barely survive in it? The answer is buried inside a decades-old industry playbook. And the solution? It costs roughly $1. It uses ingredients already sitting in most American kitchens right now. And one overnight application can restart a biological chain reaction so powerful that dead dirt begins behaving like living Earth within 72 hours. But to understand why this works, it helps to first understand exactly what those brightly colored fertilizer bottles have been doing to the ground beneath our feet. Walk through any garden supply store in spring. The shelves are stacked with bottles and bags promising explosive growth, bigger yields, greener leaves. The labels feature lush gardens and vibrant flowers. The price tags suggest cutting-edge science. But the formula inside most of those products has barely changed since the 1940s. Synthetic fertilizers deliver 3 primary elements: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The famous NPK ratio printed on every bag. And plants absolutely need those elements. No question. But here is what the packaging does not explain. Those nutrients arrive as concentrated mineral salts, and when those salts hit garden soil in high doses, they do not just feed plants, they fundamentally alter the underground ecosystem. Soil is not dirt. Real soil is a living biological matrix. Every teaspoon of healthy garden earth contains more microorganisms than there are people on the planet. Bacteria that fix nitrogen from the air, fungi that mine phosphorus from rock particles, protozoa that hunt bacteria and release nutrients in plant-available forms. This invisible workforce has been engineering soil fertility for roughly 450 million years. But concentrated salt-based fertilizers disrupt that ancient system in brutal ways. The chemical salts create an osmotic shock that dehydrates microbial cell walls. Beneficial bacterial colonies collapse. Fungal networks decompose. The organisms that create soil structure, the ones that produce the natural glues holding particles together in soft, crumbly aggregates, simply die off. Without that biological glue, soil structure fails. The ground becomes compacted. Air pockets disappear. And when soil loses its pore space, it loses its ability to absorb and hold water. It becomes hydrophobic, water-repelling. The exact condition that backyard gardeners misdiagnose as needing more fertilizer. Meanwhile, the plants themselves become dependent. Synthetic nitrogen produces rapid green growth, but that growth is soft and sappy. The plant tissues are weak. Pest resistance drops. And because the soil microbes that would normally deliver a balanced mineral profile are gone, the plant can only access what the next bottle provides. It is a chemical dependency loop, and it is not accidental. The global fertilizer industry generates over $70 billion annually. A handful of corporations dominate the market. And the business model is elegantly simple. Create a product that solves the immediate problem while quietly creating the long-term dependency. The soil gets weaker, the gardener keeps buying. The cycle continues. This system has been running for decades, and most gardeners never realize they are trapped in it until something breaks. A plant stops responding. The soil turns gray and hard. Or someone notices that no matter how much fertilizer gets applied, nothing seems to thrive anymore. That breaking point is not failure. It is information. The soil is not asking for more chemicals, it is asking for what the chemicals destroyed, the biology. There is a researcher in Japan who spent 30 years answering that question. His name is Dr. Teruo Higa. And in the early 1980s, while working on Okinawa Island, he began investigating something the agricultural chemical industry was actively ignoring. What if crop productivity was not limited by nutrient availability? What if it was limited by the absence of the microorganisms that make those nutrients accessible? Dr. Higa started isolating naturally occurring beneficial microbes from environments that had never been chemically treated. Forest floors, unwashed rice grains, fermented foods. He combined these organisms into balanced consortiums and introduced them into depleted agricultural soils. The results were immediate and dramatic. Crop yields increased without additional fertilizer. Soil structure improved. Disease pressure dropped, and the effect was not temporary. Once established, these microbial populations became self-sustaining. The soil began functioning as a biological system again instead of as an inert chemical substrate. At the core of Dr. Higa's microbial teams was one particular group of bacteria: lactobacillus, lactic acid bacteria. The exact same organisms humans have been using to ferment food for thousands of years. Yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, sourdough bread. Every culture on Earth has relied on these bacteria to preserve food and make it more digestible. Dr. Higa discovered that when introduced into soil, these same organisms function as a probiotic for the Earth. They outcompete pathogenic bacteria, they break down locked-up organic matter into humus, they produce enzymes that release minerals from clay particles, and they secrete growth-promoting compounds that stimulate root development and plant vigor. This was not a new chemical. It was not a patented formula. It was the return of biology that industrial agriculture had been systematically eliminating for half a century. And the most radical part, these organisms can be cultured at home using materials most people throw away. Here is exactly how to do it. No lab required, no expensive ingredients, just a basic understanding of fermentation and 3 items from the kitchen. Start with rice. Not the rice itself, but the starchy water left behind after rinsing uncooked rice. Most people pour this cloudy liquid straight down the drain. That is a mistake. Rice wash water is packed with starches, trace minerals, and complex carbohydrates. It is a perfect growth medium for capturing wild lactic acid bacteria directly from the surrounding environment. Pour the milky rinse water into a clean glass jar. Fill it about 2/3 full. Add a small handful of cooked rice. This acts as a slow-release food source. Cover the jar with a breathable cloth or paper towel. Secure it with a rubber band. Never seal it airtight. The bacteria need oxygen. Place the jar in a dark cupboard at room temperature. Not in the fridge. Not in sunlight. Just a quiet, dark space where the temperature stays stable. Over the next 3 to 5 days, wild lactic acid bacteria from the air will colonize the jar. They will begin fermenting the starches, and the population will explode exponentially. By day 5, that jar will smell mildly sour and tangy, like yogurt or fresh sourdough starter. That smell is the confirmation. The jar now contains hundreds of millions of beneficial organisms per milliliter, a living microbial army grown from kitchen waste. If the jar smells rotten or foul, something went wrong. Discard it and start over. The correct fermentation smells clean, slightly acidic, and pleasantly sour. Now those bacteria need fuel, the kind of fuel that will trigger a massive reproductive surge the moment they hit depleted soil. That fuel is blackstrap molasses, the dark, thick byproduct of sugar refining. It is loaded with simple sugars for immediate microbial energy, plus calcium, magnesium, iron, and potassium. Dilute the fermented rice water into 1 gallon of clean, non-chlorinated water. Stir in 1 to 2 tablespoons of blackstrap molasses until fully dissolved. The effect is instantaneous. The bacterial population explodes. The organisms begin secreting sticky polysaccharides, natural glues that will bind soil particles back together into healthy aggregates. But there is one more critical ingredient, something that addresses a hidden chemical problem most gardeners never even know exists. Commercial potting mixes are acidic, often extremely acidic. The peat moss base drives the pH down below 5.0. At that acidity level, essential nutrients like calcium and phosphorus become chemically locked. Plants cannot access them no matter how much fertilizer gets applied. And earthworms, the living aerators of healthy soil, cannot survive. The low pH burns their skin. The fix is wood ash, plain ash from a fireplace or fire pit, untreated hardwood only, no charcoal briquettes, no painted or pressure-treated lumber, just clean wood ash. Wood ash is naturally alkaline. It contains potassium carbonate, calcium, and trace silica. It is an excellent pH corrector, but raw ash applied directly to plants can be caustic, too harsh. This is where the chemistry becomes elegant. Add roughly 1/4 cup of clean wood ash to the molasses and rice water mixture. Stir it in. The organic acids produced by the lactic acid bacteria immediately begin reacting with the alkaline ash. The harsh caustic compounds are neutralized and converted into soft, bioavailable nutrients. The ash simultaneously raises the pH of the brew to a level earthworms and plant roots prefer. Let the mixture sit for 10 to 15 minutes. The brew is now complete. A living, bubbling tonic containing billions of beneficial organisms, bioavailable minerals, and the biological framework to rebuild dead soil from the inside out. Evening is the best time to apply this. The sun is down. Evaporation is minimal, and cooler temperatures give the microbes their best chance to establish before the next day's heat. Pour the diluted brew slowly and thoroughly over tired, compacted soil, raised beds, container plants, neglected garden patches. The goal is complete saturation. The soil should be visibly wet all the way through. Then, walk away. Let the night shift begin. Here is what happens in the dark while nobody is watching. Dead, compacted soil is hydrophobic. Its surface is coated with dried mineral salts and organic residues that repel water. That is why water runs off the sides of pots instead of soaking in. But the microbial surfactants in this brew break that surface tension. The liquid penetrates into microscopic pores that have been sealed shut for months or years. Over the next 12 to 18 hours, billions of lactic acid bacteria enter their colonization phase. They spread across soil particles. They attach to root surfaces. They begin forming biofilms, thin living coatings that transform sterile mineral surfaces into biological habitat. Then, something even more remarkable begins. The newly established bacteria start waking up dormant mycorrhizal fungi already present in the soil. Together, they weave an underground network of thread-like hyphae. This fungal web can extend the effective reach of a plant's root system by up to 100 times. It functions as a resource-sharing highway, trading sugars from the plant for minerals mined from soil particles, transporting water across distances no single root could span, even transmitting chemical warning signals between plants when pests or diseases appear nearby. And the earthworms? Within days, the first signs appear. Small castings on the soil surface, tiny tunnels visible when the soil is gently turned. The brew has provided exactly what they need: microbial food, corrected pH that no longer burns, proper moisture levels. By the next morning, the soil surface will look darker. It will feel slightly softer. Within a week, water poured on top will absorb instead of running off. Within 2 to 3 weeks, the soil texture begins transforming from hard and pale to dark, crumbly, and spongy. The kind of soil that smells rich and alive when squeezed. That smell, the deep, earthy fragrance that rises after a warm rain, has a name: petrichor. It is the smell of billions of microorganisms doing exactly what they were designed to do. That gray, water-repelling garden bed did not need to be replaced. It did not need another bottle of synthetic fertilizer. It just needed its biology back, and now it has it. Here is what it comes down to: a jar of rice water, a spoonful of molasses, a handful of wood ash. 3 ingredients that cost almost nothing, combined into a brew that does what no synthetic fertilizer has ever accomplished. It brings soil back to life. Tonight, save the rice water. Find the molasses in the pantry, scoop some ash from the fireplace, brew it. Pour it over the most tired, most neglected patch of soil in the garden. And tomorrow morning, go outside and touch that soil. It will feel different. It will smell different. And given a few weeks, it will grow differently. Because for the first time in years, that soil will not just be holding a plant. It will be feeding one. The earthworms will return. The roots will reach deeper. And those tomatoes might finally taste the way tomatoes are supposed to taste. The fertilizer industry has spent decades convincing gardeners that soil is just a delivery system for chemicals. But soil is not a substrate. It is an ecosystem. And ecosystems do not run on chemicals. They run on biology. That cracked pot of dirt sitting on the back porch is not asking for more fertilizer. It is asking for what the fertilizer destroyed: the microbes, the fungi, the worms. the invisible workforce that has been building soil fertility since plants first colonized land 400 million years ago. $1, one overnight soak, and the biology comes back. Not because of some corporate innovation, but because nature has always known how to heal itself. It just needed someone to stop poisoning it long enough to let the process begin.